One, two. Hello, one and all, and welcome to another edition of The Kickout, the final word in professional wrestling. I am your host, the Wizard CZ. Joining me, as always, my for frequency's sake tag team partner and tag team champions of the network, Never Wrong, Nick Bull. Nick, how you feeling today?
I'm feeling great, CZ. I mean, it's we're in the throes of January. It's cold here, but we can bear this cold. We're going to make it through, wrestling fans. Plenty of good wrestling to be watched right now. A lot of exciting things going on. As this airs, we're moving towards Saturday night's main event for WWE, and of course, Royal Rumble's on the horizon. But a lot of good stuff going on right now with wrestling, and it's midweek, so it's time for a little bit of discussion. So, CZ, I want to know, what do you want to talk about?
So I've been thinking about this, and I've kind of been researching potential topics for the show, and I found some good ideas, and one stuck out to me here. I want to talk about controversial wrestling storylines and exactly how far is too far. Now, there's an ominous one that sticks out to everybody that we are not going to touch on, because I don't want to touch that with a 20-foot pole. If you know, you know. But first one that comes to my mind has got to be back in the feud between Vince and Shawn, when it was Vince McMahon versus God. I mean,
yeah, that happened. That did happen. I mean, we're not going to mention the one that you didn't want to mention, and I get it. I don't want to talk about it either. But, I mean, come on. Mae Young giving birth to a hand.
Jesus, yes.
I mean, it's funny. It's so bad. That's what I think of. There's times it was done on accident, and there's times where it wasn't. I always think back to a guy who I loved his in-ring work. I loved his character because he had so much heat, was Muhammad Hassan.
Yes.
But Google it. I'm not going to comment on it. There was a controversial angle as part of his story. WWE shot this angle on TV. It's on SmackDown. I don't even know if it's on the network. You can find it anymore, but Google it. That's one that probably went too far.
Very much.
Look back now at the glory days of Monday Night Raw, when Stone Cold Steve Austin's going to break into Brian Pillman's house, and Brian Pillman's got a gun on live television. I mean, that wouldn't fly now. You got to think back. This was pre-mass school shootings. This was pre any of that. So that wasn't in their thinking. And maybe at the time, I remember thinking that, as a kid watching how cool it was, and like how real it felt. And I think that's why it's had the resonance it's had. Maybe they went too far there. I don't know.
And that wasn't the only home invasion angle. Was it Randy or was it Triple H that invaded the other's home? Wasn't there another home invasion angle where someone got thrown through a window?
Yeah, was that? Yeah, it was Randy and Triple H, I think.
Who went to whose home, though? Was it Triple H going to Randy's or the other way around?
I think it was Triple H going to Randy's.
That's kind of what sticks out in my mind. I mean, home invasion is a serious thing, and
we've seen it as recently as Swerve Strickland and Hangman Page.
Yes.
Talk about that. What did that do for that? You know what that did? That was throwing gasoline on a fire for that feud. After that happened, people were like, "Oh, he did go too far." I want to know what you thought about it as it was going down.
I mean, watching Hangman burn down what was supposed to be Swerve's childhood home, that's I can't even. It was just amazing, and not in a good way. It's like this is some serious stuff that's happening, and I don't want to say they're making light of it. They are to some degree, but at the same time, they're trying to get you invested. And honestly, at that point, was that before or after the Texas Death Match?
Well, that was before the cage match at All Out that I watched live.
Okay, so would have been after the Texas Death Match.
But I'm telling you what, I think we may think, I'm going to look at it this way. We may think it went too far, but everyone wants to complain how nobody keeps anything kayfabe anymore. Yep. And if you're following kayfabe, I like it. They're staying within the rules and the regulations, although they may be bordering on some of them. I think it did wonders for that feud and made people care. Again, it showed a different side of Hangman Page. I think it brought layers to his character, and now people are interested in him again after, the whole CM Punk episode in AEW. Now that Punk is gone, they don't like each other, blah, 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 blah. That said stuff about each other. I think that them pushing the envelope and going too far. Here's something we need to remember. Hey, they're not saying stuff to each other that probably wasn't already cleared with their counterpart.
Right.
I think recently back to Dynamite here recently with MJF and the Jeff Jarrett segment. I don't know if you remember watching that, but it got very personal. And MJF takes pot shots at Karen Angle, which is Kurt Angle's ex-wife, which is now Jeff Jarrett's current wife. And I guarantee to some extent they both knew ahead of time something was going to be said and to brace for it type of deal. So, yeah, I think they can go too far, but I think it's in the eye of the beholder. It's what you believe is too far. I think we all believe, you can't do that gun angle on TV anymore. You wouldn't be able to do that. But that other stuff is campy, kind of tongue-in-cheek stuff, like when we talked about the Mae Young hand. I mean,
I'll tell you what's too far, Nick. Hangman Adam Page drinking Swerve's blood.
You know what? Yeah, I could say they probably went too far with that. Yep.
Ugh.
I got a high tolerance when it comes to stuff in wrestling that doesn't offend me or gross me out. That kind of did. Now, obviously it's not going to happen if they both have a healthy, bill of health, and, there's no chance there for anything. So I don't know. Yeah, they probably took it a little too far there.
And I brought this up off air. I want to bring this up here. This is just silly shit. He was leaving for WWE, and now he's back in TNA. But didn't Eric Young get murdered a few years back in storyline in kayfabe?
Yeah, I don't remember who murdered him. I remember he was stabbed. I remember he was stabbed to death in storyline as he was being written out of TNA and was heading to WWE. Wasn't it? Or was it when he... I thought it was more recent than that.
I'd have to look at the exact dates. It might have been more recent than that. I don't... It just... The thought of it is cringy to me. I mean...
I'm going to look here real quick because...
You can't...
It was cringe. It was absolute cringe. And it was cringe you couldn't get away with. I mean, not even 20 years ago. Maybe 20 years ago you could have got away with it.
And here's the thing. They avoid saying things like, I'm going to kill you. I'm going to murder you in the ring. They avoid saying things like that because it's all a work, because it's wrestling. But they don't want to go out and say, I'm gonna murder you, I'm gonna stab you to death, and blah blah blah. They avoid saying that because they don't want to bring the reality home that hard. And yet here we are, EY getting murdered, getting stabbed to death in Impact or TNA.
Well, what I'm seeing here is it was their way of getting him off the air, obviously, because he was going to a different company. That's all I can really get on it right now. But yeah, that's how. I mean, usually it's like you write somebody off, you do it with a beatdown, or everybody remembers when Don Moxley was wrestling in WWE as Dean Ambrose, and they wrote him off. I think they went with some like head injury or something.
Yeah.
So interesting way of doing things, but they probably went a little too far when you're implying you murdered somebody in an angle nowadays. I think you could have, maybe gotten some money out of that in the 70s, early 80s, but that's still too far today.
Yeah. And I mean, how do you even suspend disbelief when he comes back after being murdered?
Right.
I mean, I'm sorry, this guy died several years ago, according to you, and now here he is alive and well, perfectly fine, nothing happened, back wrestling for your company.
Yeah, we're suspending disbelief enough, right? Like, don't, and that stuff, that right there is a little insulting to the fan, because the fan's not going to buy into that.
Right.
I mean, come on. Most of them won't. I'm sure there were some. But, what do you guys think? Let us know out there. Like, follow, subscribe, leave a comment. We love wrestling discussion. That's what this show is all about. Hit us up on our socials. They're on the screen right now. We love to talk. We love to talk wrestling. Of course, this is The Kickout. We're powered by Lopez Pizza, built by Durham Remodeling, colored by Ryan Allison Tattoo, and protected by Jared Zook of Country Financial. CZ, what's coming up on the next episode of Cards Subject to Change?
Well,
before we get out of here,
before we talk about what's coming up, I want to look back a little bit here. We have, if you're in Waterloo this coming Saturday, as this airs, want to make sure you go out to the Cedar Valley Sportsplex and catch our friends at Absolute Pro Wrestling. They're putting on their Winter Brawl Classic. We talked with The Big Picture about that on Sunday. We also had another APW talent on a week ago, about a week and a half ago as this airs, and that was Justin Decent. We're having our third APW interview in as many weeks coming up. And I didn't really realize that. It wasn't booked that way intentionally, but we have...
Wait. Do we want to reveal who the third man is?
I mean, as long
Just kidding. Go ahead.
I knew it all along. No, we are bringing on Victor Payne, prominent star in Iowa, prominent wrestler here in the Midwest, in Iowa and surrounding areas. Very, very prominent, especially in Absolute Pro Wrestling. We'll learn about his journey and everything that he brings to the table. And then I'm just going to announce this now, Nick. Unless you want to do an episode of The Kickout, we're gonna skip it next week because we got something bigger planned.
We do have something bigger planned, so it's not that we're ignoring you here on The Kickout. Stay tuned to socials for that. But The Kickout will not join you next week. We have something else planned. I think something more that you'll enjoy. A lot of voices in a room, of course, talking about what other than wrestling. So stay tuned to socials. We'll keep you informed. We'll maybe let you know about that on Sundays. On Sunday when we record the next episode of the Card Subject to Change podcast.
Yes.
He is the Wizard CZ. He's my tag team partner. I am never wrong, Nick Bull. This has been The Kickout, the final word in pro wrestling.
This has been a For Frequency's Sake Podcast Network production. For more great content, subscribe to For Frequency's Sake on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter.